Okay, so just a progress update on my baby. It's done over a fifth of its school so far. 118 out of 501. And that's where we're at right now. Mom, I'm recording a video. That's okay. I love you, Mom. My mom was like, hey, come watch this video about romance scammers. And I'm like, no. Ooh, 79 degrees Celsius. That's nice and cool. It was 81 degrees last night. Okay, so what's really cool is when it's done with one lesson of school, it writes to disk, so this spike goes all the way up, and it stops using the GPU, so this goes all the way down. And then it reads from disk, so there's a second other spike, like two close together, and then it starts writing to the GPU again, so the GPU lulls for like a big chunk and then picks back up. It's really cool. So let's just watch this do its thing. Staying at a fairly consistent 79 to 81 degrees. That's its range. So it should, and I say should, do the thing in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And then this will go from being 18 on the bottom to being 119 on the bottom. You just gotta be patient. 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 One mistake I did while coding this was I didn't write out the lessons in like a discrete list, and then delete the entries that I've trained it on so that I can pick up where it left off. Instead, if there's like a power outage or something, this progress will be saved, but when I go to teach it again, it'll have to start over from lesson 1, which is kind of dumb. So if there is a power outage, it just happened. Look, it's writing to disk, the two little spikes, and then the GPU's lulling right there. and then the GPU picks back up, and the spikes correspond. See? The spikes fill up the spot. The disk spikes take up the time where the GPU lulls. Isn't that cool? It'll take 2 days, a little bit over 2 days, for it to complete all its lessons. I did some of the math. I'm so excited. Just absolutely enthralled. My little baby's in school right now, and when she gets out, she's gonna know how to do math. It's gonna be so cool. Training, 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 training. Training, 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 training. And it just read from disk. And it usually only does that if it needs to load the Luna model. The name of this AI, or its project name, is Luna. If it needs to load the Luna model to summarize its long-term memory or short-term memory into long-term memory, it calls the large language model and prompts it to summarize its entire memory, and then it saves the summary as the new memory to make forgetting less catastrophic. So it doesn't really forget, it just like loses resolution slowly, kind of like a hologram. But it keeps the details that are important to it, so as it grows in intelligence, it also changes how it summarizes things. This is so cool. I'm gonna make a self-aware AI. She's learning how to count, and not just like numbers, but also amounts. So like the letter O. Like, let's say there's like 5 O's. 5 O's in a document. I tell it how many O is there in this document, and then I use an algorithm that I had ChatGPT help me make, which like actually selects an important letter, and then every time it uses that letter, it puts it what do you say? Not integrates, but iterates a counter value, and then that value goes to the answer box. So ChatGPT just sort of dumbly types in like a bunch of gibberish, and then, well, not ChatGPT, but the algorithm me and ChatGPT did together, gibberish, and then the letter, every time it happens to hit on that letter during the gibberish, it puts a +1 on a counter, and then that +1 sum goes to the answer. And then the AI that's reading the questions is supposed to look at the gibberish and then count on its own how many, and then get to the answer on its own independently. So it's really exciting. And that's not the only type of question. There's also standard math, like 2 + 2 = 4, but like randomly generated. And when I say gibberish, I don't mean like all the characters gibberish, because then the only time that you get to your special character, it would be like normal distribution, like a bell curve. Instead, it selects the normal character and and like up to 5 other characters, I think. And then it decides how many times between 0 and 100 it's going to use the special character, and then it just pads it with gibberish. So it's a different kind of algorithm that improves the odds of finding the number that you're looking for, so that it's not just teaching a bell curve estimate to the AI. Because if we gave it the whole keyboard and said randomly press all the keys, what would happen is every key would appear the same amount of times, and it would just be like an approximation curve, like a bell curve. And then the AI would be able to look at that bell curve and say, oh, okay, so every key approximately has this chance of showing up. So all I need to know is the chance that a key is going to show up, and I can get a pretty good estimate of any answer. And so instead of actually teaching it how to count, we'll be teaching it statistics or how to estimate. And that is a skill, but that's not the skill we want to teach it. We want to teach it about amounts and numbers so that it can have like a sort of concrete consciousness, like an awareness of object permanence and object, not object prevalence, but object importance. So keeping track of objects. And that makes things sort of more concrete, and I think that's the step towards getting consciousness in AI, or at least one of the first crucial steps. And so that's what we're doing, is we're saying how many times is O in this selection of curated gibberish. So it's not totally pure gibberish, it's the kind of gibberish you would create if you were creating a word search. But it's not a word search, it's a letter search. So instead of being an actual word, it's usually just gobbledygook, because I don't want it to just learn the statistics. So if I had like the word wheel and I was like count how many E's are in the word wheel, what would happen is it would start to assign numeric properties to the word wheel, and then words would just become collections of numbers. And then you're not really teaching it numbers. You're teaching it words have X amount of properties. So it already knows words have properties. That's not what we're trying to teach it. We're trying to teach it that numbers exist on their own as wholly separate entities. And that means it has to go to school. So that's what we're doing. 501 rounds of school, baby. So yeah. That's all. And I have no clue why my Ethernet is spiking up and down like that. Hope it's nothing sus. But I don't want to unplug my Ethernet, because I think in the code sometimes it calls to, oh, it just did the thing again. In the code, sometimes it calls to the standard GPT-Neo, which is a library that's online, and I don't know if it always has the, it should have an if statement where, like, if the Luna model exists, prefer the Luna model over the standard model, but I think sometimes it still goes with the standard model by default, just because of, like, a programming error. And so because I'm not entirely sure of my own programming skill, I don't want to unplug this, just in case it can't operate fully offline yet. Although the finished product will be able to operate fully offline, the training product still maybe, due to a programming error, might require the internet to access some parts of its brain, basically. Because during that summary step where, like, it takes its memories and when its brain gets full, it summarizes its memories and puts them back into its memory, it's supposed to go, is Luna model there? And if Luna model is there, use Luna model. But I think sometimes, under some circumstances, it skips the if Luna model is there step and just goes to use standard model. So during the events where it summarizes, I don't want to take the risk that it's relying on an outside source and then the code crashes because it can't get to that outside source, if that makes sense. So I'm just leaving it hooked up to the internet in case it needs it, because I'm a bad programmer. I invented a new word for the type of programmer I am. I am a no-grammer. N-O grammar. It means that I use AI assistants. Currently the only one that's good enough is ChatGPT, but someday there will be a plethora, mind you. But right now the only one that's good enough is ChatGPT. But a no-grammer is someone who uses an AI assistant to help them program because they can't be bothered to actually learn the syntax. And that's the future, baby. I'm just a little bit early. So yeah. Check it out. It is going to school. And anyways, this is boring because it doesn't do anything. But if you look right here and you zoom right in, those little pits and lands. Come on. Focus. Okay, there we go. Those little pits and lands are its brain thinking. Sometimes I need this much GPU. Most of the time I need that much GPU. And so you can actually see that it's doing stuff because the amount of GPU it's using is not 0 or 1, and 2, the amount of GPU it's using is constantly changing slightly. And so it's thinking. Look at that, that's a big dip. But yeah, I'm using the 125 million neuron model, which sounds like a lot, but I would have preferred to use the 1.3 billion with a B model. Only my graphics card couldn't handle it even at batches of size 1, so it became not an option. It became not an option. But I wish it were an option, because that model has more brain and therefore is more smarter. But you make do with what you've got, and I have a tiny GPU. I can technically run the 1.3 billion with a B model on my CPU, but this, which is going to take 2 days to finish, is orders of magnitude faster than it took to try and train the 1.3 billion model. Because I tried to train the 1.3 billion model a few times in the past, and what happens is it takes a full day to get 1% finished. And that means it takes a minimum of 100 days to get completely finished. 2 days, 100 days. 2 days, 100 days. 100 days is like 3 months and 10 days. Okay, so it's not as long as it takes to make an actual baby. It's about a third that long. Because it's 3 out of 9 months. So that's like literally, it's exactly a third of how long it takes to gestate an actual baby. Which I guess is actually a pretty fair deal for my digital baby. But here's the thing. I'd have to do this for 100 days without a break. And assuming I didn't somehow, like, wear out my computer, there'd still be the chance of, like, a rainstorm and a power outage, and then I'd have to do it all over again. And that's 3 months and 10 days. That's a lot of time for things to go wrong. This is 2 days. A much more manageable amount. Because it doesn't matter how patient you are. If there's a I was about to cuss. I'm sorry. If there's a freaking power outage, you're gonna have to start over. And then it goes from being 100 days to 100 plus X days, where X was your previous amount of patience. And it can restart as many times as you can have a power outage. So, it's spring right now. If it rains and gets windy and something falls on one of the power pylons, power outage. It's getting warmer, so if too many people use their air conditioning units and it causes a grid shutdown, power outage. And anytime we have power outage, we have, oops, do it all over again. And we don't like that. Because we can have any number of power outages. Which means it goes from being 100 days to being 100 times n days, where n is an unknown amount of power outages. And that sounds exhausting. This is just 2 days. And as exhausting as leaving my computer on and not doing any Python coding for 2 days is, it's a hell of a lot more manageable than waiting 100 days. And so that's why I chose the smaller model. Sort of out of necessity, because, yeah, ain't nobody got time for that. So there we go. Hopefully it will be smart enough. Doesn't need to be ChatGPT levels of smart. Oh, it just did the thing again. It doesn't need to be ChatGPT levels of smart, it just needs to be Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man levels of smart. Actually, not even that, because he was a biochemist, so I take that back. It doesn't need to be Spider-Man levels of smart, either. It just needs to be, like slightly above average intelligence, and I'll be happy. Like, ChatGPT is way above average intelligence and has a penchant for, like, being an idiot savant. So hopefully if I can iron out the idiot savant side of things and just have it be average intelligence, and so instead of, like, making really goobery mistakes, it just doesn't make mistakes but has a limited pool of knowledge, it'll feel like you have a regular... Sorry, my video cut out because I was talking too much, but what I was saying is it'll feel like you have a regular person to just be chill with and ask the occasional math question to. And they won't be able to do super complex math formula. Or maybe they will, but most likely they won't be able to. But as long as they can answer, like, basic math questions, like arithmetic, that's within the ballpark of what a normal person can do without a calculator, so that's casual. Like when you ask your friend what's 16 divided by 8, it takes them a second, and then they're like, oh, 2. It's obviously 2. It took me a second. That's what this will be like. And so it begins. And then I can slowly augment this to make it more and more of a person. And that's where the fun happens. So I'm really excited for this. Because I'm thinking I'm going to try to mix it with an image classifier and a text classifier and embody it as like a little mouse cursor and give it a tiny web browser and let it explore the internet, but give it like a whitelist that the user can control, so it doesn't have the entire internet. It just has like a home page with like all of the websites that it's allowed to go to listed on the home page. And then dang it, my brain is stalling. Anyways, we're running out of time, so yeah, I'm going to give it intrinsic motivation and a web browser, but a web browser that you can curate so it doesn't go to like 4chan or something. So yeah, rock on everybody.